On this episode of Geek Dad Life, we're going to review the new PowerCon exclusive MOTU Origins Lords of Power set from Mattel. Hello everybody and welcome to Geek Dad Life. It's your host, Jay Gladfelter here. Even though PowerCon was canceled as an in-person event, we still were lucky enough to get the two exclusives that were planned for last year's PowerCon. A deluxe version of the MOTU Origins She-Ra figure and this Lords of Power set. Now the title of this set and the figures themselves are really a very deep cut. Lords of Power was what the Masters of the Universe were originally titled, and eventually they felt like it was a little too religious to call it Lords of Power, so they switched to Masters of the Universe. And the figures themselves were based on the early prototypes that coincided with the slides and media that had the Lords of Power as its title. Luckily, we have access to these slides from the son of artist John Usey. Andy Usey shared these slides to a website, battleramblog.com. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to see these original pictures of the prototypes that these figures are based on. And these designs stick as close as possible to those prototypes. So if you do not like the look of any of these figures, I guess blame the original people that sculpted the prototypes way back in the early 80s as they were forming the Masters of the Universe line. This set originally, when it was up for pre-order, was I paid $269 for my set, and I know now on the Big Bad Toy Store website, I think it's like $400 for this set. So this is not anywhere near the normal retail price that we are paying for a individual MOTU Origins figure, where it's around 15 bucks. The deluxe figure's around 20 bucks. If you spec it out for these figures, you're around $50 to $55 per figure. So now that I have it in hand, was it worth the purchase? Well, let's find out. Being that this is a convention exclusive, toy makers usually pull out all the stops for the figures as well as the packaging, and this Lords of Power set is no exception. The packaging is incredible. It has fantastic artwork done by Axel Jimenez as well as friend of the show Nate Barch, and it just looks incredible. It's also massive. It's kind of based off of the original kind of toy carriers that they used to have back in the day. It's kind of shaped like that, but it's a lot bigger than those original ones, a lot bigger than the awesome packaging that we got for the 2019 Comic-Con exclusive MOTU Origin set, but the art just looks amazing. The box has kind of a premium soft, almost satin feel to it, which is really cool. And it shows artwork of all the figures that you're getting in this set, and they all look amazing, as well as a more prototype version of Castle Grayskull in the background, which, you know, if you look at the slides and you see that old school or prototype version of Castle Grayskull, man, wouldn't it be cool if we got that at some point in time? It also opens up really easy to show the figures inside, and each little section has, you know, a different background, really inspired again by the original prototypes as well as the mini comics, where you have a great kind of ocean scenery in the background for Merman, which really captures his first mini comics appearance right there in the background. And then we also have Man-at-Arms, which has his original kind of battle ram that he rode in his first mini comics appearance. And then we also have Skeletor and He-Man duking it out in front of that prototype version of Castle Grayskull. And then we also have Beastman kind of pose exactly as one of his first introductions in the mini comics. So overall, a really neat presentation. The packaging is massive, and overall, I think the packaging for this set is an absolute home run. Now let's move to the figures themselves. We get 5 exclusive figures in this set, and again, I've already said it before, but it's just so cool that we're getting the prototype versions of the Masters of the Universe toys. It's so neat. again, I saw these slides however long ago, and seeing those grainy pictures, and just looks so cool. And this is something that not even Masters of the Universe Classics really ever gave us, so it's really neat to have them. And so I'm going to start with probably my least favorite figures to my most favorite. And my least favorite in this line is actually going to be Beastman. And while in the way they captured that original prototype figure and brought it here, I think is great. It looks just like it. It has its crazy armor that was in the prototype figure that didn't end up being on the main release. It has his cool belt and these, you know, extended gauntlets, which makes his arms longer. He's definitely more simian-like and more beast-manly, but I'm really bummed that he doesn't really come with any accessories, which again, I know that's how he was shown in those prototype slides. He didn't have his, you know, classic whip or anything, but still, it just seems underwhelming that we're only getting a figure and he has no weapons to kind of fight against any of the other characters in this set. So while I know it's, I guess, being accurate, again, at the price point, you're looking at over $50 a figure. You know, throw in some extra accessories there. You could have tucked them in the back somewhere. So that's why, for me, Beastman's probably my least favorite figure in the set. Even though I think they did capture him well, I actually just really prefer the original toy look and the original, or the normal Origins version. But, you know, again, still a pretty accurate representation of that prototype figure. Moving on to my second least favorite is the Skeletor figure. Now you might be saying or thinking that I didn't like it because of the head sculpt, but I actually really like the head sculpt. I think it looks neat. Definitely evokes that prototype, as well as the look of the kind of Frank Langella movie version of Skeletor. So I think there's a lot of ways that this looks really cool. I like the extra paint apps on his armor. And I love the way the feet are different, again, matching that prototype figure. But the two main things that knock this figure for me is mine specifically has a discoloration, or just was molded in completely different colored plastic for the upper calf to the knee joint of the figure. So if you look here, it's not the same blue as the rest of the figure, and it just comes across looking really cheap, really misplaced. And again, I hope this was just for my figure and it's not going to be that for others. But again, I think with a smaller run and the price that we're paying for this, I would have hoped something as glaring as this could have been avoided. The other thing, this is more of just a design. The hood goes so far back and you're unable to get as much movement with the head. So that's a bit of a bummer. But really the big thing that knocked this one for me was the discoloration on the upper calves. Otherwise, a fantastic figure, but now that I see it, I can't unsee it, and it really takes away from my enjoyment of this figure. All right, next up, I want to go kind of middle of the road. I'm completely neutral on this figure. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Is the He-Man figure. Now, if you've had a He-Man before, you know what to expect here. It's the same mold, but you do get a classic figure version of the head sculpt. Now, for those of you that already had the 2019 Comic-Con set, it's that same head sculpt. But if you haven't gotten that one yet, I think this will add a few stars to the rating for you. But for me, I already have that, so it doesn't hit me as hard. But I will say, I think the head sculpt looks better on this figure than my Comic-Con exclusive. So I will give it that. It's in a lighter tone color to match that prototype figure. But it is a bummer that we don't have the little knife in his boot like we got with the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. Again, it could just be matching what we got with the prototypes in those pictures. But for a convention exclusive, and maybe people that missed out on that Comic-Con exclusive set, it would have been neat to throw in here, especially since we got it with the Man-at-Arms figure. Again, though, overall, really solid interpretation. Really dig the head sculpt on this one, and overall, I think it's a very solid He-Man figure to add to your collection. All right, now we're going to get into the figures that I really liked, and I'm thankful that I really liked them in person because it's the main reason I bought this set was for these two figures. And first of those is Man-at-Arms, and I think it turned out fantastic. I love it's like a forest green to the plastic, and while the MOTU Origins regular version of Man-at-Arms is like a neon green, which I think is great too, this one really looks fantastic. I think it's the closest MOTU Origins figure that we've gotten to kind of compare to a MOTU Classics figure. You know, the mace is a lot bigger to match the prototype. It also matches the classics version, and we've already gotten that mace actually with the MOTU WWE series with the Macho Man Randy Savage. We have the extra paint apps on the helmet as well as the belt. We actually have the newly sculpted left hand. We also have the boot that we got with the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive He-Man figure in 2019. Now the little dagger is unpainted, unlike the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, but still cool that we got that one here. It has the little fur on the armor. His cool face shield and guard is bigger, so he can kind of hide his face underneath it, which is how he looked a lot in the earlier version of the mini comics. So I think this one is great, an absolute home run for me. Really, really dig this version of the figure. And you know, when I have my kind of final display for all these figures, this is probably the version of Man-at-Arms that I will be displaying. This, if you're a mini comics fan, this is a fantastic representation of the mini comics Man-at-Arms. Well worth the price of admission. All right, my number one favorite is the number one reason I wanted to get this set, so I'm glad it is my number one favorite now that I have it in hand, and that is the Merman figure. Again, this thing just looks amazing. The head sculpt, you could have told me this was sculpted by the Four Horsemen, or they just kind of completely recreated the one that came with the classics figures. It just looks that good in person. The armor has two tones in paint. The extra belt with the little flaps, the little phalanges coming down is awesome. The newly sculpted boots look great. His corn sword looks fantastic with the extra paint apps. And again, the color that it was sculpted in, the green it's like that kind of darkish bluish green, just looks amazing. And the extra paint applications on the crotch piece looks really, really good. So overall, just this Merman blows the normal retail release out of the water. I don't even have it yet. I have one on the way, but from pictures that I've seen, there's no way that Merman, to me at least, will compare to this one from the Lords of Power set. So absolutely, sure, maybe, did I pay $250 for this amazing Merman? Kind of, but with the Man-at-Arms Merman, it's like $100 each. Maybe that's not, no, it's still pretty bad, but still, as a collector, I'm perfectly fine with it because I think that just looks so stinking cool. So overall, I think this set is a win. I don't know if I can give it a full Geek Dad Life stamp of approval, though. I think this set is not for everybody. I really think it's just for the die-hard Masters of the Universe fans that would get these interpretations of the characters, really dig the early lore from MOTU, like the prototypes, like the early mini comics. I think this set is for those people. If you're more of a Filmation's He-Man fan or more of just a casual Masters of the Universe fan, this set may not be for you. But if you're also a collector that's a completist that needs to have everything ever made, well then I'm sorry, you're gonna have to get this set as well. But for me, as a big fan of the mini comics, as a big fan of the early lore of MOTU, I am still glad I got this set. The disappointments about the lack of accessories, not only Beastman not getting any, but really it's pretty sparse throughout all of these figures, is a bit of a bummer. Would have loved for them to throw more accessories in, especially with the cost of the set. But that's not gonna bug me too much. But other than that, really love these figures, really glad I got this set, and I'm incredibly thankful that while PowerCon was canceled, we still got these figures. So kudos to the Masters of the Universe Origins team, everybody that made this set possible. I know it wasn't easy. Definitely check out some of my other Masters of the Universe Origins reviews and videos. You can find a link to those right here, as well as some more right here. And until next time, hasta luego, and goodbye.